All right, Michael, we are live. Welcome to episode number 80 of the Section 247 show, a Sports Talk Philly partner, presented as always by Michael's Glass Company. 215-338-3293. Tell them the two Mike sent you. They are open for business. You can see them scrolling down there on the bottom. I am Michael Lipinski, wearing my Rutgers University shirt. Rutgers, who is going to streamline the hell out of COVID-19 testing and make this world a better place. How are you, sir?
I'm doing just great. I just heard you crack a beer. This is episode The Big 80. As my wife, first comment of the night, chimes in. What are you drinking tonight?
I got myself a El Segundo Stone Cold Steve Austin Broken Skull IPA. It is finally here. I've been looking for this for a while. Shout out to my brother-in-law for finding it for me in Pemberton, New Jersey.
I actually meant to send you a picture of it because I did take it a couple weeks ago while we were before we got into the whole masks. You have to wear mask, gloves, everything before you go out. I saw it sitting on the side of a liquor store cashier. I took a picture of it and I forgot to send it to you. But yeah, it has finally made its way to the East Coast.
Yeah, it's good. I like El Segundo beer, and I like Stone Cold Steve Austin. So I'm glad to see that it's here, and always worth trying a new beverage. And it's pretty good. I like it. It's an IPA. It's good.
I've become a fan of the IPA. You know, this quarantine has taught me a lot of stuff. It's taught me that you have to stay inside. Of course, you have to make sure your hands are clean, which mine are starting to become chapped on the ends of it. And it's also taught me that I like IPAs.
I like IPAs too. I also like Pop-Tarts. So you mentioned before we get into the gist of the show here, you have some hygiene issues. Is that what I was getting? Is that what
so? Here's what I want to say. So my routine, the night of whenever we record, usually on Tuesdays at 9:30 Eastern time, I always take a shower. So I always take a shower just so I'm always, clean for the show, even though I know I'm not around anybody. But the whole quarantine thing, people aren't traveling, people aren't going anywhere. The hygiene has to be getting bad right about now. What do you think? Because this is this is week 5, right? We're in week 5.
We are in week 5. What, do people not shower on a normal basis?
People are not showering? Like I mean, look, you look at us. We look like two homeless guys right now. I mean,
well,
you have a beard. I have a beard.
I'm trying to grow the beard, but
What's your hair looking like right now? By the way.
Was this the weekly hair check-in?
Yeah, I want to see it. Dude, you shaved it. Oh, look, it's growing in nicely. I see a few buds around there. But hygiene-wise. So are you still in your normal routine? Like I have a routine. I have my coffee and I go upstairs immediately and I brush my teeth, amongst other things. You could do the math in between.
I keep doing my thing because otherwise I'm like that though. I'll get all antsy if I don't do it. So of course I do it.
So you do it because our jobs, and I know what your job is primarily like work. Our office is our home. So we already
speak for yourself. I am an essential person.
But you don't have an office every day that you go to that you sit and you physically clock in like some people, correct?
Correct. I do not. No.
So there you go. So you already have your routine in place. But the people that actually go to an office or go to wherever they have to go every day and now are working from home, you can't tell me that their hygiene is up to par.
Probably not. No, probably not. It's like a vacation. Like when you go on vacation and you go to the beach and then you come back and then you're like, oh, I haven't showered for 4 days. I'm sure that's where it is.
Well, first of all, whenever you come off of the beach, the best thing in the world is a shower. That always makes you feel the best ever.
I agree with you, but I'm saying there's people that don't.
Oh, Lizzie says your beard is very gray. I actually have gray in my beard as well.
I got some too, but what do you want me to do? I'm glad I have a beard.
Let me just tell you, the grays on the side of my head as my hair grows more and more is just coming in, man. I can't avoid it anymore. They're just full on grays.
Welcome to adulthood there.
Oh, it's bad. I mean, I never thought I'd be gray by the time I was 39. I guess that'll happen to you. But outdoor shower with a beer is a beautiful thing. I love that. I also love a no shower happy hour. But after that happy hour, there's nothing like a nice buzzed shower, much like I had tonight at dinner.
There you go. That's fun. All right. So yes, I shower still. I'm glad people are probably like, thank God you shower still. People should still shower. I mean, it's common sense, but I guess people aren't. Why don't we
I
tell people?
guarantee you that the hygiene is not up to code right now with some people.
No, it's definitely not. But look, I'm a civilized human being, so I do that.
Lizzie wants to know if my wife cut my hair. No, she did not cut my hair yet, because I always say first of all, I have no people. Some people are like, you're chicken shit. You won't let your wife do it. No, my wife can do it. I don't care. It just so happens by the end of the day, and by the time my kid's asleep, we are just exhausted and there's just no time for a haircut.
I would agree with you there. Listen, tell people how they can find us before we get into the rundown. Start with the social media, follow into the other thing.
So as far as how you can see us, and my wife wants to do a live show haircut, cut my hair on live show. I don't know about that one. That's a little scary. But how you can find us is that we are right now broadcasting tonight on YouTube and Facebook, right? Anything else? Periscope? Are we on Periscope?
Periscope, Twitter. Yep.
Okay. So there we go. So you can find us on Periscope, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. We want you to be commenting right now, just like Erin, Lizzie, and Nicole are. In order for us to see those comments, you have to be in the Section 247 show feed. And how you do that is you follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and start following the show. We still want you to like it. We still want you to share it. We love it when you guys do that. But when you like it and share it, if you're not in the Section 247 show feed, we can't see your comments, and we want to see them.
Absolutely. So let's get into it here. Let's get the rundown on the show, shall we?
What's up, Carl?
We are going. Hello. Is that Carl Coffee?
It's Carl Coffee.
Lions
your boy.
suck. Greatest number 80 in Philadelphia sports history. And we're going to expand that a little bit, since this is episode 80, to greatest number 80s in sports. I got to tell you, football really kills it. There's not much elsewhere. But we're going to talk the greatest NFL safety of the last 40 years. It was a conversation that raged on Facebook throughout the weekend. Shout out to 76th Street. Those guys had it going on there, and it's a great question. MLB is coming back, Michael. They have a coronavirus plan for 2020 realignment. That is pretty wild, and I think it might benefit the Phillies. The DH, I think it's going to be here to stay. And we got a schmuck of the week that you're going to.
Carl, you want to stick around for this realignment thing, because it is going to be crazy.
It is going to be crazy. So now let's get into it real quick. Let's start here with the greatest number 80 in Philadelphia sports in honor of episode number 80.
Irving Fryer.
Okay, so Irving Fryer. Now I go Chris Carter.
I knew you were going to say Chris Carter, so I went Irving Fryer. After those two, I draw blanks. Who was the white guy receiver from the Eagles that played? I just remember him he played for the Rams.
Kevin Curtis.
Kevin Curtis. There was the only other one. After that, I'm out.
There's a whole list, but Kevin Curtis, there was nobody of significance. I think Torrance Small was on there, and he wasn't very good. James Thrash was in there as number 80. It was not a very good list, but Chris Carter is a Hall of Famer. Irving Fryer, without having his stats next to me, could be. He's in jail, or was in jail. I don't know if that.
Who was he in jail? He's in jail for tax fraud, right?
Tax fraud or mortgage fraud, something to that.
And he's a reverend too.
Yeah. Bad.
Thanks, Dave. Kevin Curtis. Yeah, I couldn't think of it.
I shouldn't say bad dude, but what he did wasn't great. So let's leave it at that. Great football player, though. Excellent football player.
Man, could he catch the ball? Remember that one time he caught the ball, got his block knocked off, got up, his helmet was off because it flew off when he got hit, and did the first down.
I was always a fan of Irving Fryer. Can you take a guess at anybody else in the history of sports? We're obviously talking the greatest number 80 in Philly sports. Anybody else come to mind for you in Philadelphia?
In Philly sports?
Yeah, because I'm going to tell you.
Absolutely no.
Because there are none. There's nobody that has worn it on in any of the other sports
Shane Victorino wear 80 when he was in the Phillies farm system and training camp or something like that, when they give you those high numbers, just like the Flyers do?
maybe, but that doesn't count. I actually went to baseball reference, basketball reference, hockey reference to pull everyone that wore number 80. And I got to tell you, the list is very short in baseball. This is ever, mind you, in Major League Baseball. Ryan Edis from the Minnesota Twins. He has worn, yeah, exactly, for a year. Hockey here. I'm going to bring my notes here. Hockey has a bunch. Let's see. Nick Antropov, Ilya Brizgalov did. I don't remember that. He was an Oiler.
Well, Nick Antropov was I think a number 1 overall pick, and just never panned out for the Predators.
Yeah. So who else here? Braden Burke has it. Glenn Godwin, Matisse Kivalenkas. I don't know how you say that. You're a hockey guy. Yeah, exactly. Ben Maxwell, Steve McLaren, Jeff Sanderson. Remember Jeff Sanderson?
Jeff Sanderson wore like 16 numbers for all the teams that he was on.
He wore
Vancouver Canuck.
He wore number 80 when he was with Buffalo in 98, 99. Matt Tennyson, Antoine Vermette for the Blackhawks.
Another first round pick.
And here's probably the best one in hockey. Kevin Weeks, goalie and
Florida Panthers, New York Ranger.
Media personality. He wore number 80.
Yeah. I think he wore 80 with the Rangers. I don't know if he wore 80 with the Panthers too, but let me tell you something. He's had a great broadcasting career. He's had a better broadcasting career than he did a playing career probably on. He's a great analysis guy for the NHL Network. It's always fun hearing him, and he does really good player interviews. So yeah, about that.
So final word on number 80 in Philadelphia. When you list those guys, it has to be, is it Irving Fryer for longevity?
Yeah.
Because Chris Carter, he's a Hall of Famer, but he left.
But who is the best number 80 in any sport?
So football has obviously tons.
Well, there's only one.
Hands down, it's Jerry Rice.
Right.
I mean, that there's no
Steve Largent.
Steve Largent could be in there, but I think Jerry Rice is by far and away. He's arguably the greatest receiver of all time.
And some argue he's one of the greatest NFL players of all time too.
I would agree. And there's who else? Kellen Winslow, senior and junior. There was a whole bunch of guys.
Junior's in jail right now.
Yeah.
Tried to rape an 80-year-old lady.
He's a scumbag.
Yeah, he is.
But moving on, we're going to do the rundown. I did the rundown.
You already did the rundown. We're
good.
Sorry. Keep going.
All right, so let's move into it. This has brought up a ton of discussion on the internet, and it came out. There was a graphic that was making its way around the internet, and you can see it in the bottom corner here of our screen. It's a little small, but it is asking who is the best safety.
Just hold it up like that.
There you go. Who is the best safety of the last? I turned it into the last 40 years, maybe of all time. The conversation was between Brian Dawkins, Ed Reed, Troy Polamalu. Let's start there, Mike, and we can move forward because I think there's names missing from the list. Of those three, let's take out the homerism here. Who do you have?
Of those three, let me tell you, I knocked Ed Reed out first off, and I had it between Polamalu and Dawkins. And yeah, and as we get deeper into this, as we're going to go, it definitely plays into effect two things. One, the error that these guys played in, and also two, the defensive scheme that they played in.
There was some overlap. So we got to there was definitely overlap.
There was some. But when we go talk about some of the other names we're going to release in a little bit, it was definitely scheme and error came into play there. But out of these three, I eliminated Ed Reed. And I think Ed Reed is a little bit more of the scheme, of the defensive scheme that he was in. Look, Ray Lewis handled a lot of the workload in that defense. And the defensive line up front, whereas Brian Dawkins and Polamalu were pretty much in schemes where they could do what they want. And with that being said, I know we're supposed to get rid of homerism, we're going to get to that in a little bit, buddy. Dawkins is the best receiver, is the best safety out of these three. But Polamalu is a close second by his numbers and the averages by how many games he played.
So It's interesting you say that because when I looked at this, Doc came immediately to mind. Ed Reed was my 2, and Palomalu was my 3.
Really?
And yeah, and people are chiming in here with names, and we're going to get to it after we move off from this. We're going to discuss more. Right, Dylan chimes in.
Dylan, believe me, that's part 2 of this whole thing. Dylan and Dave, it's part 2, and Will, we see your names, and keep them coming. Keep the comments coming on what you think, and just like Zach did, he's ranking them. We like that. Keep on ranking them. Sean Taylor didn't play long enough.
Well, we're going to get there. We're going to get there.
All right.
We're going to get there. Of the guys that are on the list here, you have bona fide Hall of Famers. And I think the thing that was really stood out to me was how complete Brian Dawkins was.
Yeah.
Look, he tackles, games, interceptions. Clearly, Ed Reed was the man with the cover as being the coverage safety, but
defensive scheme.
Right. To me, I mean, Dawkins, 26 sacks, tackles for loss. It's crazy. It's crazy to see the numbers of Brian Dawkins. And maybe as an Eagles fan, he's one of my favorite players of all time. He's one of the greatest defensive players in Eagles history. I don't know that I appreciated it until I'm looking at it like this.
I think because they played on teams that were so well-rounded on both sides of the ball, and the accolades that let's face it, they didn't win a Super Bowl, but they accomplished a lot. They were always in the playoffs, NFC championship games. And I think the reason why you might overlook it a little bit is because you had and this would be the only time I'm going to give credit. You had Don McNabb on the offensive side of the ball, Brian Westbrook on the offensive side of the ball, Chad Lewis. And then you flip it to the defense, and they were just well-rounded with Lito Shepherd and, at corner. And then linebackers have never been all that great, but they had a good defensive front.
I think the thing that really I agree with you. I agree with you, but you look at these numbers, and this is taking over game type numbers. This is Ronnie Lott type numbers. And we've had a couple people mention it. Ronnie Lott, I think, to speak for you, I'm going to say it, was one of my favorite players of all time. I know that he
42.
Right, you wore 42. I know that he wasn't an Eagle, not that matters. He was a Niner, a Raider, and a Jet. But his numbers, Dawkins' numbers are really damn comparable to Ronnie Lott.
They are, very much so.
Ronnie Lott, 1,146 tackles. Dawkins 1,131. It's forced fumbles. Ronnie Lott in his career, 16. Brian Dawkins,
36.
Unbelievable.
And I think that where the scheme cuts into Ronnie Lott's stats compared to Brian Dawkins, because Brian Dawkins rovered the field a little bit more than what Ronnie Lott
did. He did. He sure came up and played. Doc sure came up and played more of a hybrid. He was the blitzing guy. Ronnie Lott for his career, 8.5 sacks. I mean, that's it.
Yeah, it's pretty. Team, man. That's where the numbers get kind of skewed. I think the best place to look is the tackle part of it. Is how many tackles did they have? How many games did they play? Sheer toughness right there.
Mm-hmm.
Dave said it. Ronnie Lott is the safety benchmark. That is absolutely correct because he paved the way for all these guys. And I saw Jack Tatum that you said earlier, Dave, and I agree with you that. And I looked up Jack Tatum. The problem is they didn't really record the amount of stats that they do now. Even during Ronnie Lott's career, the stats weren't really like solo tackles did not start getting recorded until 94. That's one thing that we have to look at. Will's chiming in, Rod Woodson. I don't know about that one.
Oh, you know what? That's a good one, though, because it's not one of the ones that we had listed here.
I think Rod Woodson goes in front of Ed Reed.
I would.
I was quite surprised, though, when you sent me that graphic that we're looking at right now, and you see Palomalu's stats, and he's got the least amount of games played of anyone there. And his stats are pretty damn solid compared to those other two guys.
They are. They're very, very good. And what really stood out there to me was that how different of a player they were. That being Reed, Dawkins, and Palomalu. And they were all so different, and that was just a real stark thing that I saw there. Steve, Will chimes in. We got a bunch of guys chiming in here, so I'm going to try and catch up here. Mind you, that this is all within the last 40 years. So, Tatum retired.
That takes Tatum out of it, but I actually looked up Tatum because I just wanted to see. And the stats, you can't really compare because they just weren't really recorded like they are now. Even Steve Atwater, and because I looked up Steve Atwater too, and Ronnie Lott, the stats really aren't recorded like they are now that you saw with Ed Reed, Palomalu, and Dawkins.
Yeah, no, not at all. And I have Atwater here, right here, and Atwater. Well, Atwater, 1,188 tackles. That is a lot of tackles.
It is.
That was a guy that was coming to play and coming to play often. He had, again, only 5 sacks. I think that's the thing that has really stood out.
That scheme right there, too.
Right. It's how the game changed when Brian Dawkins and Jim Johnson and that crew. He only played 10 years in the league, which I was actually surprised about as well. I thought he was in the league a little bit longer.
10 years
is that work?
If you remember correctly, in the 80s and 90s, 10 years was the benchmark that if you made it 10 years, you were pretty much a Hall of Famer. Because how rigorous it was then. I mean, it's rigorous now. It's even more because they're faster, they're stronger. But look, the pads aren't what it used to be. A lot harder training camps than it was now. So I mean, that was a long career. I mean, that's when your pension starts too.
That is true. Some of the other names that we had mentioned here, Sean Taylor, which is an interesting one because people bring up Sean Taylor, and it's going to sound awful. Is it because he died?
Yes.
And because 100%. He had that.
If you weren't going to say it, I would.
And because he had that one huge play in the Pro Bowl. I'm looking at his numbers here. So he played 4 years with the Redskins, obviously. 305 tackles. 305 combined tackles, 343 solo, 243 solo, excuse me. Forced fumbles, only 8. That's a lot over the course of those years. Did have 12 interceptions, which is pretty damn surprising. I do remember him being a ball hawk.
If I remember correctly, too, those were the Fred Smoot days. That was when the defensive front wasn't all that stacked up, but the defensive back, I think Dion was Dion a part of those teams then too?
He very well may have been a part of those teams, which is
it was more back built in the defense where they would throw the ball more. And he was able to get a lot of interceptions. I mean, how many games was it again that you said with the 334 tackles? You said 4 years. You didn't say how many games.
Yeah, 55 games. 53 of them started.
So you're looking at he would be pretty much comparable to Troy Polamalu's numbers.
Okay. I mean,
so that's not bad. Unfortunately, he gets brought up a lot because of the first 4 years. I mean, they were really good 4 years. 55 games, 300 and some tackles. How many interceptions did you say? 16?
He had 12 interceptions.
12. All right. Mm-hmm. So that puts him automatically right there at the top of the list they didn't do interceptions. They did. Yeah, that puts him right at the top of the list if we go by trend. I just unfortunately for me didn't play long enough, and that's I say that cringingly because of how everything wound up for him.
Right, unfortunately. I mean, it's always it's sad when someone passes.
Mm-hmm.
Will chimes back in that the Broncos don't win their 2 Super Bowls without Steve Atwater. I don't disagree with you there, but they also played in a bunch with him, and they didn't win there.
I think they don't win those Super Bowls without Terrell Davis. I think that's
right. Exactly.
That's the factor there.
Hey, Dylan Moran chimes in. Jamal Adams is a great comparison for Brian Dawkins. interesting because he is, a little bit of a younger dude. So
Wait and see.
wait and see. And that begs the question, who are the next guys that we're going to be talking about here when it comes to this? Ronnie Lott clearly, I think we can all argue, paved the way. And he paved the way for Dawkins. And I'm going to go down saying that Brian Dawkins paved the way for Ed Reed and Troy Polamalu. Yes, there was crossover, but without Dawkins, and thank you, Jim Johnson, for seeing what you had there. Who are the next set of guys? Are there any? Has the game completely changed?
I think the game's completely changed. I think you said it. I mean, can you name 5 safeties in the NFL right now that are standout safeties? That are dedicated safeties that can't slide into the corner? I mean, you're going to put Malcolm in there. I know you're going to do Malcolm Jenkins.
I'm thinking over the past 10 years. You got Malcolm Jenkins. This is without looking at numbers. Clinton Dix is in there, but I don't know. I don't know without really looking at it.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard because safeties now are in different packages. There's sometimes they're lined up in the slot playing corner, that they're facing a tight end.
Right. Kenny chimes in. It's going to be hard. He's right. It's going to be hard to have the next Doc because the game has changed so much. And I don't know.
When we grew up, safety was always your last line of defense. And that if your safety was making all the tackles, that was a bad thing.
It was a bad thing. Exactly.
And Ronnie Lott was the one that made you see it differently. Ronnie Lott was really the first NFL player that was okay to like that wasn't an Eagle, because look how tough he was. And he was the one that would come up in coverage and he would, get that run 5-10 yards deep.
That's an interesting one. Eric Berry, Zach chimes in with Eric Berry. Yeah, I mean, he's a name, right? Derwin James is another one.
I like Derwin James. I like what Dave said. If you remember correctly, last year when we were doing our halfway through the year, I picked him as the rookie defensive player of the year.
You did.
And he had another good season this past season too. So yeah, I guess that would be a good one. It's just, again, gets overshadowed because he plays for the Chargers.
All right, so let's take a look here at Rod Woodson, because this is a name that keeps popping up, and I think it's worthy of having a discussion here. So Woodson is obviously he's in the Hall of Fame. He's an 11-time Pro Bowler when it actually meant something. 6-time All-Pro.
True.
1993 Defensive Player of the Year. Let's pull up his numbers: 238 career games, 71 interceptions. I'm looking at this on my phone. I didn't have it printed out. Probably should have. Comparable players. So he compares to nobody. It's not going to tell me.
I didn't look at the comparisons. I basically just would look at the defensive stats and look on my own to who I had. And for anybody.
Look, Rod Woodson does 1,158 tackles.
Wow.
He deserves to be in that conversation.
How many games?
So he did this over the course of.
I'm sorry, I'm not looking at the camera. I'm looking at my stats that I had.
Yeah, I'm pulling up his stats here.
How you doing, Phil? You're not late. Don't worry about it, buddy. The days have jacked up. Yeah, those days are done, man.
Over the course of 238 games for Mr. Woodson.
238?
Okay. Yeah.
That's not too shabby. Is he in the Hall of Fame? I don't think
he's in the Hall of Fame. He's in the Hall of Fame. Yeah. He deserves to be mentioned. All right. So 2009 inductee.
Good looking out, guys. See, that's what we need the comments for.
So I would even argue that he's probably the better of I don't know.
Okay, so let's do this. All right. And everybody that's the comments, being sure you're in the section 247 show feed, because we want to know what you guys think of this. So we have the graphic up there of Brian Dawkins, Ed Reed, and Troy Polamalu, of course. But then we also have Ronnie Lott, and we'll put Rod Woodson in there. Out of those 5 guys, I'm assuming Ronnie Lott's going to be one. How would you rank them, 1 through 5?
Are you asking me?
Yeah, go ahead. I'm asking them too.
I'm going to go Ronnie Lott because he was the first, right? Mm-hmm. He was the first. I'd have to go Brian Dawkins, number 2. But man, Rod Woodson makes a great argument, and Woodson supersedes Doc. So I could argue that Rod Woodson goes in 2, Doc goes in 3, Ed Reed for his coverage ability is 4, and then you go 5 with Palomalu. I think Atwater deserves to be in there ahead of Palomalu and Reed.
See, I don't agree that Atwater deserves to be in there ahead of Reed. If anything, I'm ranking Reed last out of all of them. I'm still going to put Dawkins second. Ronnie Lott's going to be number 1. It's going to be hard to change my mind on that one, but Ronnie Lott's going to be number 1. Brian Dawkins, Rod Woodson, but that is really close race.
That is very close.
And then we'll do Atwater, and then Reed will be bringing it in the rear.
So yeah, I'm going to revise mine here. We're going to have Ronnie Lott, Woodson, Brian Dawkins, Steve Atwater, Ed Reed, Troy Polamalu, and I think they can be interchangeable.
Mm-hmm. Reed was fun to watch, Kenny.
He was a different player. He was a different player.
He was a different player, and he would play. He would return punts too. I mean, he did a lot of stuff, and he was fun to watch since college. I'm actually surprised there's not more games under his belt than there are. 174 games. I thought he played a lot. I guess he just really looks old.
He does look old. He has the beard with the gray. I mean, I
see that mentions Rodney Harrison.
Cheater.
I didn't really. To be completely honest with you, Dave, I overlooked him. Didn't even think of it. I guess because Patriots, you think Tom Brady, you think everybody else, Teddy Bruschi.
Well, let's bring up Rodney Harrison here.
Oh, should I look at him too?
186 games, 34 interceptions, 2-time Pro Bowler, 2-time All-Pro. I think right there that kind of phases him out a little bit compared to the other guys. How many
rings does he have though? That's the real question on that one.
But what does that have to do with your abilities? Dan Marino has no rings, and he's one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time.
Oh. I feel a lot better at night knowing that I had 6 Super Bowls. Well, no, he's got
4. Well,
he's got
100.
4.
Yeah, all right. So 186 games for Rodney Harrison. He has.
So that puts him puts him games wise ahead of Ed Reed and Palomalu.
Right, 134. 34 interceptions. If he had 134 interceptions, that would be goddamn impressive.
Dude, you see his tackles?
I'm getting there. Wow, 1,206 tackles, Dave. You know what?
Wow, Dave, sorry. You know what, man? And 920 of them were solos. Now, granted, solo tackles did not get in start count until 1994, but wow, 40 tackles for a loss compared to Dawkins is 59. Who's the
but still 1,200 tackles. That is goddamn impressive. All right, so maybe Rodney Harrison does have a little bit of skin in this game. I would put Rodney Harrison ahead of Troy Polamalu and Ed Reed. You can argue,
34 interceptions. That's right up there. I mean, that's below Dawkins and below Reed, but ahead of
Polamalu.
Yeah.
So now that begs the question: is he overlooked because he was a Patriot?
Absolutely. I think Dave had a great question there.
And they great cheated.
Point, really. Yeah. Ronnie Harrison.
Yeah, I mean, you got to remember he was a Charger to start his career, which I had completely forgot about until I looked at that.
So Kenny, Reed was a game changer, but
he's not wrong there.
He's not. You're not wrong, but I think because of how you have Ray Lewis, who's another Hall of Fame middle linebacker there. It was just a killer defense. That defense was sick.
It was sick. It was a sick D, and man, I got to tell you though,
I was actually really pleasantly surprised about that Rodney Hendrick.
That is impressive, and I didn't realize that he was at that level. That is goddamn
another
impressive.
One. Who was the safety for the Rams back in the Peyton Manning days?
Well, you have John Lynch is another guy that people always bring up. He was a Buck. Was he a Ram for a little bit too, though?
Yeah, he was a Ram was he a Ram or was he a Cardinal? He was a Cardinal. I'll look that one up while you're talking there.
Yeah, and John Lynch.
The thing is with John Lynch, he played for a lot of shitty teams.
He did. He won a Super Bowl with Tampa, right? Let's see here.
I have it up.
Yeah, go ahead. Give me
He
John
was a
Lynch.
Bronco, which, I mean, it makes sense. He became the GM of the team, didn't he?
Well, he's a GM of the Niners as well.
Yeah.
Adam
He was
Archuleta.
Tampa Bay, and he was a Bronco.
Thank you, Kenny. Adam Archuleta. That's the name that you were
Yeah,
thinking of.
yeah.
I hated that guy. I hate
You got
him.
the spelling right too. Props to you. If you copied and pasted, don't tell anybody. Tackles 1,059.
1059.
Yeah. And that's over 224 games.
Okay.
So I mean that's the equivalent to Brian Dawkins. About 100 tackles less than 100 tackles, really. Interceptions 26.
Interesting. And
no
again,
he's never scored.
That's a scheme thing. That defense was very innovative. The Tampa 2 defense. I mean, they call it Tampa 2 defense for a reason.
Only 13 sacks. But again, defensive scheme on that one. So I think sacks with a safety is all about the scheme. You know, Jim Johnson brought Brian Dawkins a lot of the times in, just like Schwartz did with Jenkins. Let's see what happens next year. But yeah, when it comes to sacks, it's all defensive scheme.
We're going to revisit this on our Twitter, and we're going to maybe do a little bracket challenge on that because I think this is fun. So be sure check us out on Twitter at SEC247 Show, the new one because I screwed up the old one, and we can. That's my bad, and we can have more of this conversation.
Just leave it alone. I get text messages. What's he doing with all these different pages? Just leave it alone. Leave it alone. It'll grow.
I screwed it up. I was trying to do something that I had read and it didn't work. And that's my bad.
You don't never believe everything you read there.
That's a good point. And I read it on the internet. So, that's part of the problem. Why don't you tell people? So I just told people where they can find us on all social media, scrolling on the bottom there. Tell people how to do the thing.
So everybody that's chiming in tonight, we appreciate it. We see Kenny, we see Dan, we see Dave, we see Zach, we see all you guys coming to conversation, which, brought to light. Hey, look, Rodney Harrison. Who would have thought? But in order for us to see those comments that you're writing there, we need to be in the Section 247 show feed itself. And how are you in that feed? Well, you have to be following us on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter Periscope in order for us to see it. We still want you to like it. We still want you to share it. But in order for us to see comments, and if you want to comment, jump into the Section 247 show feed and say hello, say what's up, comment on what we're talking about.
Absolutely. Remember, if you want to listen to this after viewing it, we are on all podcast platforms: Apple, Google, Anchor, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Bullhorn. There's a whole bunch of them. Search out section. It's something that we're on. Section 2. Search out Section 247 show, and we're there.
Spotify.
Spotify. Did I say that? No.
Spotify. Yeah, Spotify. Shout out to AW Pod for being number one, the trending wrestling, man. We were on that show. Congratulations to our friends, A Work in Progress, the number one wrestling show out right now on a couple different platforms. God damn it, pal. And we were on that show, and I want to say we have a little bit to do with that, but that's taking too much credit from those guys who are awesome. They work hard, man. They do work hard. Every day, it seems. They
put out some serious content. Go check out their merch store. And while we're talking about it, check out all the Sports Talk Philly podcasts. Philly Special, The Fix with Ryan, Powder Blue podcast. What else do we have? We got the Flyers podcast with Kevin. I'm blanking on the name of that one right now. Sixers podcast is coming out soon. A lot of stuff there. Check it out, sportstalkphilly.com, and go to the scroll on the side and click on the podcasts. Why don't we move on here, Michael? Unless we got Kenny's asking all draft show next week. Kenny, we're going to get to that. We are going to have a draft show next week, but I'll put the scroll on the bottom.
You're reading our emails?
I know. Coming up next week, Tuesday, Eagles draft bust and NFL draft special.
Not named Mike Mamula.
Not named Mike Mamula. And you should check out Sports Talk Philly coming up this week. I'm not sure if it's going to be Wednesday or Thursday, but there is a nice article that is going to be written by one of these two schmucks. Hi, how you doing? Going over just that. Eagles draft bust, not named Mike Mamula. And those of you who think Mike Mamula is a draft bust, you're a bunch of morons, but I'll save that for the article and for next week. We're also going to do, by the way, Michael, we're going to do a live breakdown of the Eagles pick next Thursday after they make it. Emails.
What's that going to be?
Well, I don't know. We're going to do it though. One of us is. Maybe you, maybe me. Who knows? So yeah, we are going to have a draft show.
We still communicate through email sometimes, Phil.
Yes, we are going to have a draft show next week. You want to do your schmuck of the week?
Yes, schmuck of the week. Unfortunately, NHL suffered a loss in a player named Colby Cave this past week that was very tragic, very sudden. And it was because he had a brain bleed at the end of the day. Dan Carcillo, not even 24 hours going into this player passing away, tweeted out that he hopes that his family will be donating his brain to science so it could be studied. For anybody who doesn't know, Dan Carcillo is a very much advocate for any CTE research right now. And for anyone who doesn't know, Dan Carcillo is a former NHL player. So within 24 hours, he actually reached out asking the family to please donate his brain to study research. 24 hours. Not even a time to grieve. This injury had nothing to do with CTE or anything that happened on the ice. It was from a cyst that ruptured that wouldn't be picked up until it happened. And 9 times out of 10 in a patient, it's usually benign and can be operated on. Unfortunately, it was caught too late and he passed away. Dan Carcillo, for the past, say, year, has gone on his tirade, attacking former NHL players for how they played the game, let alone Dan Carcillo was one of the biggest, dirtiest players in the NHL at the time and he played, and now he's trying to make good on that by being an advocate for CTE, which there's nothing wrong with that. But Dan, let the family grieve before you go up and being on your soapbox and trying to tell them they should be donating their brain to science. He wasn't even married a year. He was 23 years old, if I recall. Might be getting the age wrong. Enough is enough, Dan. Just go away for a little bit. You have a new book coming out. You have a new show coming out, and I know you want to get out. You attack Splitting Chicklets, which is a hockey podcast on another platform. Dan, it's just time to just go away for a little bit. You are the schmuck of the week, Dan.
I didn't realize that he had a book and some other things coming out.
He's got a lot of things going to and let me tell you, some of the work that he has done has been very good. It's been very impactful. He's trying to help, much like Eric Lindros has been trying to do with combat head injuries and making it safer for the NHL players. But there's just some times that he just goes on his soapbox and just can't stop. I have the tweets. I'm not going to read them. I don't think it's appropriate. The thing is, let a family grieve. If it had to do with a hockey injury, I could see, but it didn't. And one of the people that, shamed him for it said, well, I am an organ donor myself. I just want everybody to know. An organ donor goes to somebody else that needs it. When you say have it studied for science, that's not what you're trying to get at, Dan.
Yeah, because I was going to disagree with you there, saying that I don't see a problem with it. Until you mentioned that it was live over Twitter, which, dude, like, what are you thinking here? Come on, man. I don't see an issue with behind closed doors. We know sport. We want to have that conversation. That's fine. We did a whole show on this. We mentioned Chris Nowinski and what he was doing up at, I think it was Harvard, that's where he was from, and whatnot. But yeah, you can't go on social media begging after the poor kid passed away yesterday, Monday, Sunday,
2 days ago.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
And it's a shame. And like I said, Dan Carcillo has done a lot of good work for the NHL and trying to help out with player safety is a cannabis activist and trying to help head injuries heal better. But this wasn't the time or place for it. Let the family grieve. Nothing to do with anything that happened on hockey, nor did it have anything to do with COVID-19. That's the unfortunate thing as well, is that media outlets in Canada, the agent had to go on the news and say that it had nothing to do with COVID-19, that it was just this one of these freak things that happens in somebody. I think it said that happens to 3% of the world's population of what exactly he had.
26-year-old kid. That's awful.
I think he was 23 or 26 in that realm.
Either or. I mean,
still too young, not even married a year, just got married. Unfortunate, had a whole life ahead of him. Was, in what I've heard just from the stories and the tweets and everything, was up and down in the NHL and the minors for years, both with Boston and Edmonton, was always very appreciative, was always very kind to the staff, no matter what level he was playing at. Just, he lived out his dream.
Rest in peace, and I hope his family finds some comfort. Dan Carcillo, F off, man. All right, let's move on here. I can't do too much of that kind of stuff. We're going to talk a little bit of baseball, Michael. Major League Baseball has announced a plan here to combat coronavirus and start playing baseball again. A week ago, we talked about it, where they were going to sequester everyone in Arizona. That has since changed. The thought process is to go back to spring training sites in Arizona and Florida, the cactus and the grapefruit, and start playing some ball. And you can see the graphic down at the bottom of the screen. It's the potential for Major League Baseball realignment 2020. We are going to have not the National, the American League, but the Cactus and the Grapefruit League. What's your take on this thing?
It's pretty crazy. It is basically just an extended spring training that's going to last for the season. But I'm looking at this. I mean, Yankees and Phillies.
Yeah, I mean, so it's going to be broken down. Grapefruit League North is Detroit, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, the Yankees, and the Blue Jays. So the surrounding communities right there in the Tampa area for spring training. Look, that benefits a lot of people right there. Definitely benefits the Yankees, but it doesn't hurt the Phillies too much either.
Nope, especially when you have to play the Pirates and the Tigers. And, I think Toronto is going to be a sleeper team. I thought they were going to be a sleeper team if we had a regular season playing out right now. But I mean, then you look to the next one, man. That is one sorry division that is going to be next for you. I can't see it.
Well, so we're looking at the South. It's the Braves, the Orioles, the Red Sox, the Twins, and Tampa. I disagree. I think that's okay there. I mean, the Braves are very good. The Orioles, they're hit and miss. Red Sox are always very good. The Twins are kind of a mediocre, but Tampa is also very good.
Yeah.
And we'll finish out the East in the Grapefruit League. The Cheaters, the Marlins, the Mets, the Cardinals, and the Nats.
That's a tough division. That's the toughest one out of all of them, I think. A lot of young talent on Jays. Yeah, Kenny, I agree with you. That's what they have basically every old MVP all-star player son playing for the Toronto Blue Jays this coming season. So
Toronto is going to bash the living hell out of the baseball. Yeah. And putting them down in Florida in some of these ballparks. Now, I know that the Phillies ballpark is comparable to Citizens Bank Park. I don't know about the rest of them, but they're going to bash the living hell out of the baseball.
Yeah. And Dan, the Yankees should own us. The Yankees should 100% own the Phillies in that division. And it is a little dumb. And, what Lizzie says, Florida is a hot mess right now. That's what happens when you have spring breakers just constantly just being down there and never close anything. And now they have a problem.
So
I don't even think this even happens, to be perfectly honest with you. It's nice on theory, but I don't think it's going to happen at all. I don't really think we get a baseball season until August. And I was talking with Tommy Bryce with this last week. Tommy Bryce, New York's #1 sports podcast, who you can find, great friend of the show. But yeah, we were talking about this, Sam. Baseball might not resume until August, we think.
So it was announced, and I'm reading this directly from The Athletic. MLB team employees will be subject of U.S. largest COVID-19 antibody study. The Major League Baseball has already begun the process of working with the CDC on testing capabilities, which we discussed last week on the show as being a real holdup. I gotta tell you, man, tens of thousands of employees of the 27 league clubs have volunteered to take part for research purposes. But you know what's going to happen here. This is baseball's way of having this be mass testing to get this moving.
I mean, if this actually happens, then you have to just basically everybody, whether you're a professional baseball player or if you're a janitor in a nursery school, everybody that needs to be tested, because if they can watch these guys constantly,
well, they will. That's part of the process.
Then everybody should get a test. They should the CDC should just knock on everybody's door right now, hand everybody a test. You take it and you hand it back to them.
They're going to. You know what happened?
Face.
They're going to. Rutgers University was at the forefront of this. Stick it the rest of the Big Ten and the rest of the universities in the nation that couldn't pull this together. Rutgers figured it out. You spit it in a tube, and within a day, you get your test back. Boom.
What about the ones I have that you can get in within 5 minutes now?
No, I don't think that they're very.
I'm sure Major League Baseball players will have that one, though, right?
Right. So let's get to it. Do you like? Let's get the politics out of it and whether it's going to happen. Let's assume that it does move forward. Do you like it?
No. I think if you can't do a season right, then don't have a season at all, or at least you can have a season.
When you say do the season right, what do you mean by that?
If you can't have a season where they're in their ballparks and you can't have people come watch, then what's the point?
You wouldn't want sport right now?
No. To be perfectly honest with you, if it can't be done right, why have it at all? Jimmy Dugan once said, anything we're doing right.
Okay. And they also used to say, they said in, what was it, Breaking Training, let the kids play.
Yeah. And you know who started chanting those let the kids play? The fans that were in the goddamn park.
Well, that's a good point. I agree with you there. But see, I agree with Kenny's assessment here. As a society, we need it. I agree, man. Like,
hey, look, Kenny, I don't think we need a society. My lawn and my outside and my inside of my house is so pristine right now that it's beautiful. And that's because there's no sports on that I can't. There's no excuse. Why can't you cut the lawn? Well, there's a Flyers game. There's a Flyers playoff game coming on. Well, there's no Flyers playoff game, so I go cut the lawn.
I think that this is exactly what we need. I don't want to say baseball saved us once before. It was an entirely different situation. But after 9/11, it was a very important thing to get back to some sense of, normalcy. Jesus Christ, you go back in history, look at history, Roosevelt wanted to make sure that baseball continued so that the nation had a sense of normalcy. To me, it's important that if it can be done safely, that it somehow occurs.
Yeah. I saw Phil say that, revenue is really driven by TV right now. Yeah, that's right.
It is. Yep.
It is. And baseball is that sport. But I will say, basketball might even been that sport where TV is driven by revenue. But we're getting to the point where, football does need those 60,000 people walking in every Sunday and every Monday to watch a football game. NHL needs those people walking in every night. So, they're being careful about it. Baseball might be the only sport that could pull it off with anybody, but what's so fun about that?
Football could pull it off without any fans. Haven't you seen a Cleveland Browns game?
Or not even Cleveland. No, Cleveland Browns, they show up. Have you ever seen a Tampa Bay Buccaneers game? Or maybe not
anymore, yeah.
Or a Jacksonville Jaguars game? Or an LA Rams or a San Diego Chargers game? Have you seen any of those? But I don't know. I don't like it, man. You know what it is? It's just a new normal. You just have to get used to it. Just like we watched a WrestleMania a couple weeks ago with nobody there, and we're still watching wrestling with nobody there.
Well, you're watching wrestling with nobody there. I'm not watching wrestling with nobody there because I agree with CM Punk that the fans make the product. But that's for another day. That's for another podcast.
Don't you think sport fans make the product? I mean, how well are those horse games going on ESPN right now?
I have no idea. Did you watch it?
No. And I've read an article about how the producers are extremely disappointed on how well they're going. Yeah, I'm gonna be head grounds at the fact.
You have no idea because I saw a picture on Facebook, or not Facebook, I'm sorry, Instagram. I guess from your neighbor's point of view of you cutting the lawn for the 18th time during a 24-day quarantine.
So it wasn't 18 times. And I saw Lizzie asked how many times I cut it. It wasn't 18 times. So what happened is I went to start, and I have a riding mower. I went to start it. It was dead. The battery was dead. It had to be charged. So I had to use my push mower. Well, pretty much halfway through cutting the lawn in my front yard, I noticed that the blade was all the way up, and I wasn't really cutting anything at all. So I cut the backyard the right way. But the next morning, once the battery was charged in my riding mower, I cut the front yard and blew it all over again and did all that stuff. But yeah, I've cut my lawn a lot. My lawn has basically could have been cut in February. I started cutting it in March. So it's been quite a few times.
Enough of your lawn and all that stuff. Let's talk about this. Let's assume that this moves forward. Okay. So we're going to assume that the Grapefruit League moves forward as this is craziness craziness talking about it. Grapefruit League is what it is. So the Phillies are going to be in a division with Detroit, Pittsburgh, the Yankees, Toronto, and the Tigers.
Yeah.
Works out not too bad for them.
I mean, we already talked about this. Is this Groundhog Day?
No, but we're going to get a little deeper into it. You got to get deeper into it.
The Phillies and the Yankees. The Yankees will probably overmatch the Phillies.
But it's an opportunity for a Phillies team that, on paper, going into the NL East was probably the fourth place team to have an opportunity to be the number 2 coming out. I mean,
are we going to have an asterisk just like the 94 season? Because technically we went to the World Series in 94 and 93.
But nobody counts 94. It was closed. They shut it down unless you're a Montreal Expos fan, which they live for it. Phil, what is this? What about the Universal? Duh. I know what you're talking about there. Hold on a second. Hold on, Phil. DH here to stay, Michael. It looks like, and it's going to happen. If this is the direction that baseball ends up going, Rob Manfred is going to get what he wants, and that's going to be the DH. Once it's here, it's never going to go away.
No, it's not.
Welcome to the new normal. You're going to have baseball with the designated hitter throughout both leagues.
Just takes the strategy all out of the game, in my opinion. And maybe because it's I grew up in National League. I grew up a Phillies fan in the National League, and I never. We grew
up National League fans before the game was available on every channel. You couldn't watch anybody other than the Phillies. I mean, we had the Yankees, the Braves, the Braves, the Mets on on certain channels. But it was more National League baseball than anything. I hate the DH. I hate it. But I will say this move for the DH really does help the Phillies.
It makes sense. It levels the playing field, especially when you have American League teams in the division that you're playing in. It levels the playing field a little bit. I get it. But there is that thing when you get to the World Series where the pitcher has to bat, where it changes stuff when you go to a different ballpark. That's why Francona became a great manager when he went to the AL. Yeah, it's less thinking he had to do.
Yeah, you just play the game and you bash people around.
But it's funny because then Jimmy Williams became the bench coach of the Phillies, and in 2008 they won the World Series. So I mean, go figure that. And supposedly he was the brains behind the operation with Charlie Emanuel. So go figure that one out. I mean, who knows? I love Tito. Oh, starting to miss baseball.
See, exactly. I'm starting to miss baseball. So you're going to tell me that if they were in empty Spectrum Field in Clearwater, you wouldn't watch it?
Well, I mean, what else am I watching? I mean, after I watch Vanderpump Rules, I mean, I'm all caught up on my DVR right now. I'm all caught up on the Below Decks. I'm all caught up on the Housewives of New York. Orange County starts tomorrow night. Or no, Beverly Hills starts tomorrow night. So I'm going to be in on that. But yeah, I'm all caught up on everything. So yeah, I probably watch it.
Fair enough. I don't know how to follow that up. Look,
it's going to talk about Vanderpump Rules.
No, it's going to happen. I'm all for it. As a Phillies fan, I am excited if this is the division that they get lined up with. The Yankees are the Yankees, but the Phillies could actually do it. There it is. I agree with this completely. DH helps the Phils on that 13-year deal. Goddamn right. Look, the DH, I hate it, but it's going to be good for the Phillies. It absolutely is. And now you have a situation coming up with Alec Baum where you don't know if he's going to play third base. You don't have to worry about it. Hit away.
Can I answer the questions?
No. Nope. Yeah. Not at all.
Listen, I didn't watch the Tiger King update.
We're not even going to bring it up.
But I lost interest. I saw the 7 episodes. I'm good. And no, my wife doesn't set the DVR. Actually, I do, Phil. My wife gets
Phil. It's embarrassing.
The Vanderpump Rules, my wife gave up on it like 2 years ago. I'm still going strong with that one. Got it.
Did you watch the new challenge?
No. I don't get MTV. With Hulu, I don't get MTV.
That's awful. Hoskins needs to DH. Again, it's a great opening.
Who are you playing at first? You playing Baum at first then? Alec Baum.
but it doesn't matter. It allows you so many more weapons. I'm going to talk myself into liking the DH by the time we're done this. This is
who is going to be pitching? That is the question.
Well, at this point, pitching machine, maybe.
Yeah,
that's what they should just do. They should have a pitching machine. You know, if they're going to have robot umpires, they should just have the
what division are the Giants in when they get that curveball machine out? Let's see, Colorado. Who is it? Colorado. Who's the second? Who's above San Francisco? The A's, right?
The A's. Colorado. So they're going to be in the Cactus League Northeast Division. That is Arizona, the Cubs. They couldn't even put the Cubs and the White Sox in the same division for shits and giggles. Like, come on, man. Have them play all the time. So it's Arizona, Chicago, Cubs, Rockies, A's, Giants.
Let me tell you, the Cactus League is awful. Like, look at that. Look at that second one there. The White Sox, the Reds, the Indians, the Angels, the Dodgers.
Well, look, that's a Dodgers. That's the Dodgers division. The Northwest, though.
Those are all nice hats. I've owned or would like to own at one point.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. That's pretty bad.
And the same with the next one. Look, Kansas City, Milwaukee, San Diego, Seattle, Texas. Give me a freaking break.
I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I don't follow.
Yeah, he's going to need that coconut oil, Kenny, because he's going to burn.
Yeah.
Burn exactly. Hell. You go to hell when you die.
See, we're missing out on baseball. We're missing out on Gabe Kapler's press conferences in San Francisco and how that's all going to play off.
We're actually not missing out on baseball. No, we're missing out on the NHL friggin' playoffs that should be going on right now. That's what we're missing out on. They are.
Speaking of that, last week, episode 79, we had Todd Herremans as our player in our number 79 album art on the podcast version. It should have been Carter Hart. My bad. That was my bad.
I mean, that's all right. Let Carter Hart fly under the radar. By the way, the Flyers, their social media, it would just with Gritty, the quarter hour of power. If anybody has seen it, it is friggin' hysterical. It's usually I take my lunch when I know it's coming on. Yeah, and he will be manager of the year, Gabe Kapler, that little bastard.
That's always how it works.
But, I mean, the Gritty quarter hour of power has been great. It's been Scott Lawton, Kevin Hayes, that the other one, Adrian, that does the on ice, whatever. She's done it. He's playing charades. He's making Scott Lawton sing. It's just been a lot of fun to watch.
I'm going to have to take your word on that because I haven't seen it.
It's on Instagram Live and probably Facebook Live too.
But tell people where they can find us, and we're gonna put a bow on this thing.
So you can find us on Twitter and Instagram, and I'm assuming Facebook too, at Section 247 Show. You can find myself at Michael Watkins 7 on Twitter and Michael_Watkins_7 on Instagram. And where can they find you, sir?
I think it's _Doc_247 now. That's what we're playing with. Go to @Section 247 Show and you can find me tweeting from there. You can find us on sportstalkphilly.com. You can find sportstalkphilly.com on the Twitter @sportstalkphl. Remember, next week, big week next week, it's draft week. Eagles draft busts, not named Mike Mamula. Read the article first. I will tweet it out. And then we are going to have a discussion about the other draft busts. And we're going to have a draft special. We're working on a couple guests there. And Thursday, after the Eagles pick, Watkins and I are going to get on and we're going to discuss, well, maybe just him. I don't know. And we're going to discuss the Eagles pick, which is probably going to be traded back into the second round. Although nobody wants to hear that.
And before we go, and Dan, real quick, Dan had a great point. This is awful. Just restart it when football comes in September. I got you one better, Dan. Just restart everything come next friggin' February when spring training will start again, and we'll just start over then and go from there. But share, tell a friend, write a review for the audios, reach out to us, tell us what you want to hear, what you like, what you don't like. You wanted to say something in closing.
No, yeah, this topic tonight with the NFL's greatest safeties of the last 40 years was a topic that was fan generated. So, we like these kind of things. We want to talk about that stuff. We don't want to talk about the normal things. Keep bringing in. Let us know what else you want to hear about. We got some stuff in the hopper. be sure podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, all of those. Bullhorn, iHeartRadio. You can tell your Alexa to play Section 247 podcast on TuneIn Radio, Section 247 show on TuneIn Radio, and it'll do such a thing.
Letting the machines take over.
Absolutely. We'll touch base with you guys next week. Kenny, you have a good night. Everybody have a good night, and we will see you down